Patrons, I bear good news this evening. A couple years ago, I decided to test out one of my first ever Elden Ring videos involving 10 enemies I just felt like complaining about. And since, as we all know, negativity is a virus, it ended up getting a whole lot of attention I wasn't ready for. And now, with over 2 years of quality, reputable content under the hood, we're finally to the point where we can start recycling old ideas and repurposing them in a new environment. And by we, I mean me. And by 2 years, I mean whenever my last upload was. So I'm taking advantage of the wave of new viewers and additionally the fact that the word piss doesn't trigger censors for some reason, by revving up the old slop apparatus and taking my frustration out on some motherfucking pixels. No particular order with these, they all fill me with an equally visceral hatred, and you're not allowed to disagree under any circumstances. Number 1, Lampreys. I miss the good old days when all I had to worry about during my riding expeditions were lobsters and the occasional rune bear waiting to jump scare my ass cheeks off. Like the Wild West era of YouTube, but with more dragons and less talking fruit. Unfortunately, the DLC adds a new threat to that list, and it's probably the worst one. These 10-foot-long damaged vacuum hoses make the lobster snipers in Liurnia look like kids playing ring toss at the Shittersville County Fair. There is an insultingly small grace period between getting grab-assed and eating a stray projectile from 800 yards out that foreshadows the second grab-assing. These guys chain attacks together like a hive mind of Tekken players, which makes it all the more hilarious when the bullet fulfills its mission only for the grab animation to just completely fail because they didn't think to snipe me on a surface any flatter than an airport runway. It is hilarious, at least until the second marksman loads up glowing magic bullet preset 17 and slingshots it clear across the ruin, pointlessly immobilizing you for another 7 seconds while his buddy desperately tries to 9-point turn his ass around so he can grab you again. Heading into the finger ruins only happens twice in the DLC, and with these overgrown leeches on patrol, twice is more than enough. I don't even care if their grab attacks miss half the time. If I wanted to get a fatal dose of CC shoved up my ass, I'd rewind to 2018 and start playing Overwatch again. Fuck this. Number 2, Divine Warriors. They can't be flinched, they can't be backstabbed, and they come in 2 different variants, neither of which have overlapping strategies to deal with them. Rotating around him with a shield can cock up the tracking on the greatsword variant, but not the curved sword dude. Poise flexing through the damage and haymakering a stone into his face can counter the curved sword guy, but not the greatsword guy. But with a bit of practice, they become slightly less of a big deal. However, not every Divine Warrior is made equal. Though we constantly run into the multitudes of feather fanners and horn gore horrors, the power pool is relentlessly monopolized by the entourage of shithammers hanging out near the top of the final area. Why do you just have a blizzard around you now? Why do you just make that happen? Is this your idea of chip damage? This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. I don't know who invited Roman Reigns and his buddies from S.H.I.E.L.D. over to Elden Ring, but all these Street Fighter grapples really just need to stop. This isn't fucking Hell in a Cell. Quit slamming me into the floor like the goddamn Undertaker and just fight me like a guy with a sword in his hand. Number 3, Curseblades. Holy son of a fuck. Just leave my ass alone right now. Go, leave. Why does it feel like every time I fight one of these, I'm trying to swat away a giant bee? Okay, new rule. If it can outrun Torrent when I'm not paying attention, just don't put it in the game. Just don't. We don't want to see it. Watching other players give advice for this incredibly common enemy is very funny, because they toss around the phrase, "don't get greedy," like they're prepping you for a raid boss. That's not the kind of advice you should be hearing for a common dude with a pair of pizza cutters. That's the kind of advice that should be saved for Ludwig von Dutch Oven, Exalted Knight of the Horde or some shit. I don't agree with how some bitch wearing a pair of dirty shower towels around his waist like a skirt can poise through everything, but I absolutely understand why. Why would you flinch or even get slightly startled at anything when you have a health bar the length of an Olympic javelin? They don't need a self-preservation instinct, they just need enough swords and an amphetamine problem, and surely whoever wants trouble with them is gonna get it, right? Number 4, Gravebirds. Jesus shit, speaking of amphetamine problems, there is no funnier joke in all of FromSoftdom than giving the player canonical plot armor by tying the respawn mechanic to in-game lore, and then setting up the whole rest of the game in a way that enables the stupidest deaths possible. Every time a Gravebird has ever killed me, it's been an embarrassing experience. It's an embarrassing experience because they're so easy to deal with that being sent to hell by a 15-hit slap fight combo you could have easily grab-missiled your way out of at any point in time should be embarrassing. It's the ultimate reality check that brings into question everything you thought you knew about yourself as a veteran of these games. It's the kind of death that when your friend on Discord leans into his mic and softly says skill issue like an ASMR YouTuber telling you about their Patreon specials, you genuinely consider punching him in the mouth for a good 2 seconds. So how the shit do they manage to be such a constant problem? Every time I run into a Gravebird, I'm just afraid of what new attack I'm gonna see from it. Most of them just fly around and are annoying for a few seconds, but some of them can breathe homing ghost flames at you you that seem to crawl on the ground for a little too long. Some of them fire spectral rings at you. Some of them can even put you to sleep. And there's never just one of them. Now, that would be too easy. If you aggro one, you better watch your ass because he has a whole extended family of fuckers coming to give you a shitty day in the next few seconds. Number 5, Holy shit, these guys are ugly. Holy fuck, that's terrifying. I get the saying, a face only a mother could love is supposed to be an insult, but I just don't think that's enough. If I found out this gathering of giant gerbils were somehow children of mine, upload frequency would slow down massively because I would be busy hunting them all to extinction. They might be the owners of some of the worst drop rates I've ever seen, which is a brain-dulling 1% chance to drop Nectar Blood Burgeons in the Stone Coffin Fisher. This can just lead to a whole network of different tangents about why they made the Lolling Branch such a bitch item to craft, the single item that necessitates the function of St. Trina's Smile, yet every single DLC Remembrance boss except for one is just flat out immune to sleep, so you'd have no choice but to proc sleep on yourself in these situations to take advantage of the talisman. And that's a little hard to do when you've locked the only item capable of doing so behind a 1% item drop rate. These guys suck so much balls they made an entire talisman shitty. Also, I don't know why they aren't weak to bleed, and I don't give a shit. The only thing I care about right now is why the writers over at the Fextra Life Wiki are such lying motherfuckers. You don't find Bloodfiends in the Abyssal Woods. You don't find anything there. It's the Abyssal Woods. And what the fuck is Bloodfiend Cave? Oh, okay, no, you mean Rivermouth Cave. The one with the chief Bloodfiend in it? I guess that's what you meant by, oh no, you already had Rivermouth Cave listed here. So what? Number 6, Fire Knights. There's an obvious reason these torqued out, skinny Crucible Knights don't ever appear in groups. And that's because if they did, you'd need to mod in a high precision railgun and drag it into Shadow Keep because nothing in the unmodded game would be capable of dealing with it. My Fire Serpent can barely travel the length of an actual hog-nosed snake, but any Fire Knight inside the county line can just drag and knob your balls off from 9 fuckatillion yards away with theirs. The Greatsword Knight flings that shit around way too quickly for it to be a colossal sword, and the Short Sword Knight can't even finish a combo without you already being dead by the end of it. You can use a Great Shield as a hard counter, I guess, but that's a claim you could stake against any enemy or boss in the whole of Elden Ring. That doesn't make the Fire Knight weak to a particular strategy. That just means Great Shields are bullshit. And even that won't be enough all the time because some of them can still just emit force that crap right out of your hands. These guys are just way too well equipped for everything. They're a perfectly insufferable combination of poke, aggro, and CC that leave you in a state where you're never completely sure if you're prepared to fight one. Number 7, Tower Priests. This section ended up being a replacement for what was going to be the Demi-Human Swordmasters because I felt too kind to give an entry to an enemy mob I could only find 2 of in the whole DLC. And then I ran into these shitheads over at Inner Elam, and that kindness was slowly replaced by an explosive, unstable enmity towards anything with antlers. There are only 2 Tower Priests in the game that I could find, and that's because 2 is enough. Quite a good deal more than enough. If I've given up all hope of out-dodging the storm of holy tornadoes you're throwing at me, and I just start sprinting towards the front door thirsting for those juicy door opening iframes, you have created something truly rotten. If you've passed through their cone of aggro, they immediately brute force themselves all the way up the priority ladder and demand an answer to their bullshit. Trying to ignore them or micromanaging their projectiles by dodging is a fast pass to a humiliating death via stunlock. There is no ignoring the Tower Priests. Once you've pissed one off, you have to deal with it. It's something you need to block out an entire section of your schedule just to deal with. Like an overly clingy parasocial friend who can't stop telling you what their list would have looked like. Bitch. Number 8, Bigmouth Imps. Holy mouthful of fuck. Well, points for presentation. I didn't really know what terror was until I stared down the throat of the giant idle Bigmouth in Darklight Catacombs. If my tarnished character canonically had an anus, it would have evacuated itself right here at this very moment. If you've ever felt alone in your life, head down these catacombs until you see this image right here, and you will feel the communal power of 25 million players violently shitting in their collective gamer chairs. The Bigmouth Imps are a wonderful idea for an enemy, both on paper and in practice. And no matter how cruel and unusual the actual placements of said enemy consistently are in all 3 of the new catacomb locations, they've earned my respect through their sheer innovatory design. And I say that even knowing there's no Bigmouth cannon helmet tucked away in the recesses of the DLC we just still haven't found yet, no matter how great of an idea that would have been. Head cannons are the best type of cannons, and missed opportunity aside, the Bigmouth subgenre of imp are respectfully annoying. They're just enough of a bother to remind you that you should be paying attention behind the wheel. and I can't really hate that. Number 9, Frenzied Elders. I'm deeply sorry for this take, but I cannot drive home how boring this whole area felt to me. Save for the introductory jump scare of Torrent suddenly getting stance broken by pure nothing while FromSoft shoves gong.wave into your ears, the Abyssal Woods just ended up being a slog to get through for me. The build up to the untouchable enemies had some nice pacing to it, but at some point all the scattered tablets on the ground stopped feeling like warning signs and more like an instruction manual. The thought process of what's that loud dinging noise followed by oh shit, holy fucking shit, that thing's wearing a Minecraft glowstone on his head, before getting Wingardium Levio stomped back to the nearest grace, only happens once. Any and all subsequent errors just result in me getting pissed at myself for not paying attention, and then just standing there waiting for it to kill me because I haven't figured out their weakness to parrying yet. And once I did figure that out, they only became that much more underwhelming. I like the new spin on the winter lanterns. I just really wish they didn't require the whole wooded area to be void of anything exciting just for them to work. They really planned an entire enemy around stealthing and psychological warfare, and then just thought, well, I guess that's it for this area then. Like, fuck, man, you could have put like 15 other things in here. Number 10, Furnace Golems. Okay, whose fucking idea were these guys? I promise, I just want to talk. I just want to talk to him. I've never had such an uneventfully loathsome time trying to bring down a single non-boss enemy in my whole career as a YouTuber. I harbor a visceral hatred for these enemies and how they work. I would have a happier time doing laundry. I'd rather be on the phone disputing a fucking bill with my electric company than waste 30 seconds doing literal laps around them trying to find their stupid face that could very well be clipping through a boulder, rendering the critical hit point completely and utterly inaccessible until the next kneecap popper. Cool. No, I wasn't using that stone barbed here for anything. I was just thirsty. That's all. I hate how slow they move. I hate how they walk around. I hate how much I miss fighting Erdtree avatars for crystal tears now. I hate that it took me 70 hours to find out I could just jump over their stomp attacks. I hate how their colossal size leads to me underestimating the range of half my spells. I hate the marathon I have to jog to reset their aggro when all I'm trying to do is open the map and work to another grace because Charo's hidden grave exploration is boring the shit out of me. I hate that the very first one you find in Scorched Ruins drops what's arguably the greatest crystal tier in the game, but the ones that forgot to take off their ankle weights before going back home from the gym hold considerably worse tiers by comparison. I hate that it drops one of the rarest items in the game that's only used for a single craftable, giving you extremely limited opportunities to line up a surprisingly easy to miss shot to access the Unt Ruins, and I hate how constantly it feels like I'm pronouncing the word Unt wrong, even though it's probably correct. What the fuck is an unt anyway? Some archaic unit of measurement used to gauge the amount of shits I'm supposed to give about the sword on the altar?